Welcome to the Becoming You show, where limits get torched and possibility takes the mic. I'm Leah Rowling, human in permanent beta, neurostrategist, mom to 3 amazing humans, married to 1 legendary soul, and your no fluff permission slip to stop waiting. Every week, we rewire brain patterns, smash hand-me-down mindsets, and dive into the daring, identity-shifting conversations most people dodge. Ready to turn potential into proof? Grab your pen. Your next chapter starts now. Hello, my friends. How are you? Welcome to the Becoming You show. I'm your host, Leah Rowling. I am so glad that you are here. Thank you. I really appreciate you, and I'm genuinely excited about this conversation because this is one of those conversations that has the potential, I believe, to quietly change kind of how you see yourself and how you begin to measure your life. So I want you to consider this. We are very excellent, right, at tracking outcomes and very terrible at measuring what actually creates them. Think about it this way. We track revenue. We track performance. We track productivity. We track wins. We track steps. We track HRV. We track sleep. See what I'm saying? But rarely do we track kind of the internal returns that make any of it sustainable. Things like self-trust, things like emotional capacity, things like clarity in decision making, stability in relationships. And then we wonder perhaps why success feels brittle, void, if you will, why growth, achievement, accomplishment feels exhausting, and why maybe success doesn't always translate to fulfillment. So I want to talk about something that, culture, norms, courses, podcasts rarely teach us how to measure. And that is this idea of return on self. Because every result in your life, every single result, personal, professional, all the results in between, is being produced by an internal system. Okay. And if you don't understand the system, you will keep chasing outcomes without investing with a level of curiosity and interest and in the source itself. Okay, so we are obsessed as a culture with external return on investment. You hear it all the time. What's the return? What's the return? What's the return? If I do this, then what will I get? Okay, it loves it. It loves proof, right? We're taught to ask, what did you produce? What did you accomplish? What did you achieve? And those questions aren't wrong. They're just incomplete. They're incomplete because when outcomes become the only measure of success, something subtle happens. And I want you to hear me when I say this. We begin to start outsourcing our sense of worth to results. So then our confidence becomes conditional. Rest becomes something that is earned. And our ability, our self-regard, our self-trust becomes fragile because it depends on performance. It depends on you doing something, producing more, accomplishing more, okay? So when we think about the culture's operating system that we've all been grown up in, we've all been raised in, we haven't questioned it. We haven't looked inside enough to even debate it. But it says if it worked, like if what you did worked, you're good. That was good. And if it didn't, it says you need to do more, right? But the system never asks, what did it cost you internally? What did it cost you? And without realizing it, most of us consented to that trade off. We consented to tracking what's visible, provable, all while ignoring what it was costing us on the inside. So here's a question that I think is worth sitting with today. Not, again, to judge, but just to notice, okay? What have you achieved in your life that looked successful, but that quietly drained you? That quietly asked you to be something that you weren't, that quietly tapped into your very pleasing nature to do something against your will. Because here's the part that most people miss. When we don't track internal ROI, you still pay for it. You still pay for it. You just pay later, right? You pay in burnout, overdoing, 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 just to check that box. You pay in resentment, saying yes to something that is against your will, saying yes to something that you know you should say no to, but you don't. Disconnection. And I'm not talking about necessarily just disconnection from other people. I'm talking about abandoning you, abandoning your truth, abandoning what you value. You pay for it in emotional volatility, right? Bitterness, anger, frustration. You pay for it in decision fatigue. Because when you're not clear and when you're not aligned and when you are uncertain of the system that you're operating in, decisions will always seem harder. You will live in miserable maybe. You will live in self-doubt and you will negotiate confusion as if I don't know is a valid answer. So people don't no, people say to me in my coaching calls, I don't know why, Leah, this feels so hard, right? I feel like I did everything right. And they did. They did externally. But internally, okay, the system was eroding. And an erosion looks like this. It looks like self-betrayal. It looks like emotional suppression. It looks like, right? Self-betrayal is abandonment of self, saying yes when you mean no. Emotional suppression is saying fine when you're nothing but fine, right? And that chronic misalignment for who you believe you have to be in order to be successful or accomplished or of value or worthiness or worthy, okay? That chronic misalignment doesn't show up in a spreadsheet. It doesn't show up in your running app. It doesn't show up necessarily in your Aura ring, right? And this isn't a failure. Like I'm not bringing this to you as a failure. I'm bringing this to us in this conversation as an opportunity. It's an awareness gap. Okay? So here's another question that I like to ask my clients. When they bring to me that question, like, gosh, Leah, I'm doing everything right. I'm checking all the boxes. I'm making progress. Why don't I feel fulfilled? Why do I feel this dull ache when on the outside it looks like I've got it all together. I figured it all. I figured it all out. Inside, not so much. And so then the question then that I ask them that I'm going to ask you, and I'd love for you to take out a piece of paper and journal on this, is what have you normalized internally that's quietly costing you? What have you just normalized? Maybe it's keeping peace. Maybe it's saying fine when you're not. Maybe it's saying yes when you don't want to. Okay. And that return, like understanding that, knowing the answer for that, that ROI on self isn't soft. It's foundational. It's it's a requirement. If you want to live as big as I know you want to live, if you're listening to this conversation, this conversation is not for the weak. It's for the people that have tremendous courage for their life. It's the people, the leaders of leaders. That's who this podcast is for. So it's not this conversation's not soft. It's not a conversation around self-care and bubble baths. It's way deeper because the result of you investing in yourself, investing in knowing in yourself, like I believe that that is the goal of life, is to get to know who you are, to get to know the quirks and the surprise and the delight and the love and the brilliance that you are, so that you can embody that and you can bring it forward into the world. And when we don't know that, it shows up it shows up in a in struggling with recovery from disappointment, right? We aren't as quick to rebound from disappointment, from embarrassment, from discouragement. We live there a bit because we outsource our emotional resilience or fragility to things outside of us. Okay? It shows up in how we make decisions under duress, under pressure. Do we fold? Do we need to call in a committee to make decisions, or do we have enough self-trust to be like, no, this is the right decision? Or because I'll clarify, I don't believe that there's a right decision. I believe that there's a decision that we make and then we make right by it. And that has been game changing in my life. And like with all decisions, you can redecide. You can redecide, but don't live in confusion. Do not live in doubt, right? It when we invest in this ROI of self, we get to ask how safe you feel being honest with yourself and others. Can you tell the truth without abandoning yourself? These are all really interesting and foundational questions that are required for you to better know who you are. Because of the 7 billion people on the planet, you are. We don't need you to be like the other 6 billion people. We need to be you, your unique version of you, which is why getting to know who you are and having that return on self is so important. You are the asset, you are the investment. And I think sometimes we forget that. And when we forget that, we invest in other things. We outsource possibility and potential for ourselves. We make decisions by way of what everybody else thinks we should do. Okay? So again, not nice to have. These are not nice to have conversations. They're really conversations of capacity. So I want you to think about it this way. Your results in your life are outputs. Okay? They're outputs. Yourself, right, is the system producing them. You follow? So if the system is depleted, distorted, disconnected, misaligned, misinformed, misguided, if the system is unstable, no amount of external optimization will fix that. No amount. No amount. I'm sure if you're listening to me and you've tried, you know. There's not enough things that you can do externally that will adjust and align your system internally without you choosing it. So this is where emotional capacity comes in, right? This is where the ability to stay and sit with discomfort reveals itself. This is where the ability to sit and stay with disappointment, with uncertainty, without immediately trying to escape it or fix it. Because what we haven't learned is that ROI on self, the requirement for that return of self is to really understand the operating system within. And that operating system within is understanding our thinking mind and our emotional heart. Knowing what we think about, thinking about what we think about, and understanding are those our thoughts, which is all the work that we do here. And it's sitting in our feelings without needing to run, buffer, or eat them away, shop them away, work them away. Okay? That is emotional resilience. So I want us to begin not only asking, what am I producing here? Like, what am I creating in the world? What am I doing in the world? But I want you to begin asking, what are the intrinsic qualities? What is that internal system, thinking, feeling, behavior, that are actually producing these results? Because what culture, what society has taught us is to invest where returns are visible. And I want to reframe that investment for you. That's why this whole conversation came to my heart. Um, the because we're so conditioned to do that. But the most leveraged investment, they're invisible at first. It's invisible. Investments like telling the truth sooner, restoring self-trust after breaking it, holding massive space for how you feel, knowing that you've got your back, knowing that you can handle anything because you're willing to feel anything. And if you're willing to feel anything without running, because you have such high regard and such high self-trust, because you've got your back, that's an internal operating system that cannot be broken externally. That's an internal operating system that will match and meet the capacity of your potential. And again, these investments, they don't pay out immediately. And unfortunately, that's why they're often skipped, right? They're often dismissed as optional. But they're so valuable to our emotional resilience. They are imperative to the levels of anxiety that we have and the peace that we desire. Because this return on self, it's asking you, it's inviting you, it's a requirement of you to stop abandoning you. This return on self asks us to stay a while, to, to leverage the language of emotions as wisdom, to be massively curious about our own humanity instead of forcing us to run, to escape, to push, right? It's asking us to sit and be and to learn. And the more attention that we pay to ourselves, the better we invest in our own knowing, what we think about, how we think, where'd these come from? Are they mine? What is this feeling? What would it look like for me to just be scared without trying to push through it, without trying to run? But if I just sat with scared, could I love myself enough? Could I be brave enough? Could I hold such beautiful space for myself to just be scared, to just be embarrassed, to just be disappointed, to just be sad, to just be whatever emotion you're feeling right now? If you didn't have to quickly get out of that feeling, wow, the level of wisdom, the level of knowing, the level of self-trust compounds. And it compounds in a better, deeper, more intimate relationship with yourself. It shows up in clearer boundaries, what you will and what you will no longer tolerate. It shows up in consent. What are you consenting to? It shows up in more deeper, honest relationships. It shows up with better discernment and more sustainable momentum and clearer decision making. And over time, all of that compounds into results that don't require self-betrayal to maintain. So here is the recalibration point. Okay. Where are you investing externally while quietly disinvesting internally? This does not require a spreadsheet, friends. This requires a level of awareness. And so the three metrics that I want to bring home to you to think about as it relates to your own level of self-trust or your own level of adoration, your own return on self is self-trust. That's the first one. Do you follow through on what you say matters? Are you a person that believes what you say you're going to do? That believes in yourself, that obeys yourself, that has high integrity with your word? Self-trust. No judgment. Where are you? How can we get that back this year? How can we begin to measure self-trust in addition to all the other variables that you're measuring from an output, productivity, and accomplishment state? Emotional capacity. Can you experience discomfort? Can you experience fear? Can you experience embarrassment? Can you experience discouragement and disappointment without immediately trying to fix it, escape it, judge it, or blame it? Emotional capacity. And then energetic integrity. Do your decisions that you make create expansion or contraction over time? The energetic integrity is what we're talking about this month in Innerboard. And if you've not heard me talk about this, check in the show notes, get into our membership. It will change your life. I promise you. But energetic integrity, where are you? Where are you? These are not abstract concepts. They're just unfamiliar because they're not normalized in our conversations. They're for sure measurable through lived experience. And I want to tell you that when you increase your level of self-trust, when you expand your emotional capacity, and when you have integrity energetically, your life will be different. It can't not be different because those are the system inputs that are required for every single output that you want. So I want to leave you with this. You don't have a motivation problem. You don't have a discipline problem. And you don't have a worth problem. You have an investment opportunity. Because every time you override yourself, you lose trust with yourself. Every time you suppress what you feel and you overdrink and you overshop and you overdo and you overbuffer, you limit your ability to have the emotional capacity that is deserving of you, and I promise you is what's required for that next level of growth. Emotional capacity is the requirement for the results and the outcomes that you want in your life. right? And every time you push past through your own signals, you default to what everybody says is what's required. Okay? And that's not ambition. That's self-abandonment. And the alternative, friends, is not doing more. It's staying. It's staying, it's listening. So as you move through this week, I want you to begin thinking about, does this strengthen my self-trust or does it weaken it? Am I doing what I say I'm going to do? Does this expand my emotional capacity or does it shrink it? And am I in integrity, energetically, and in alignment with the future me? Right? Those answers to those three metrics, those are the ones that matter more. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you. I'm grateful for you, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. If this episode cracked something open, good. Let it. And then head to leahrollingcoaching.com and grab the tools to rewire the story and reclaim your future. It is yours. And then share this with someone who's still waiting to be chosen, still waiting for permission, and remind them they don't need a breakthrough, that they are the breakthrough. Until next time, my beautiful friends, invest in you and keep becoming.